Why? No, I don't need anything like that. I'm fine. Is it? Well, we can start whenever you like. No. My script, as it were, was laid out for me by the Lord. All right. Hello. My name is Joseph Seed, and I'm the leader of the project that we're running here. I call Eden's Gate. Now, Eden's Gate itself is a place. It's a destination. And me and all of our followers have been blessed like the roots that plumb the depths and the flight paths of embers to be given the vision and the voice to be shown the way to reach Eden's Gate. And it is my very humble honor and pleasure to have been chosen to be your guide. This was not something that I pursued. This is not an issue of personal pride or power. This called to me, and I could not ignore what I knew to be the truth. If you're watching this, then you have expressed at least some interest in what we're doing here, and for that I thank you and appreciate your interest. But of course, we need so much more. What we really need is you, but we also need your help in any way that you can give it. There are locusts and snakes in our garden, just outside Eden, just feet away from the paradise that the Lord has promised us all. At least promise those who walk in His light, as we do. But there are these elements that are obsessed with both spreading misinformation about our cause and what we do, and seeking to destroy us, literally destroy us. I lay awake at night, often, wondering what it is that we've done to deserve this sort of scorn. Our goal could not be more noble, and our ends justify any means. Now, that's not to say that we are without scruples. Of course, our goal, let's say our milestone goal is to have enough followers and enough people who believe that we pass the threshold and we reach the critical mass, and we are allowed entry into Eden itself. We are trying. It sometimes feels like for every step we take forward, we take 2 steps back. And that is in part what this video is meant to address. This is I, as a representative of the project at Eden's Gate, reaching out to you as yet a heretic, a non-believer, and I apologize for using words like that, but I don't believe in pulling punches. I believe in telling the truth, and if that truth, unvarnished and rough and full of splinters, is unpleasant to hear, well, I apologize, but slapping a coat of paint on the truth doesn't make the wood of any higher quality, or fix the grain, or stop the splits in the structural integrity. It's just a coat of paint, and I would prefer to show you what we are made of and what you can expect without any false veneers of well, let's just say if you want to get into heaven, the path is not always outwardly, transparently righteous. And as I said before, there are times when the ends justify the means. Now, if it were up to me, if I had the power that I pray for every night, none of this would be necessary. It would be the easiest thing in the world if I were able to snap my fingers and make all of this happen and prevent the end times that we all know are coming. When I speak of the impending nuclear holocaust, that is an ecumenical belief. That is not those are not the words of a crazy man. That is not a lone voice in the wilderness. You can find documentation of this same event, this same kind of earth-shattering, catastrophic event in the writings of almost every major religion across the globe and across eternity. I'm not saying anything new here. I'm simply fortunate. No, I say fortunate. Sometimes I feel like it's unfortunate. It's a burden. And were I of lower moral character, perhaps it would be a burden I could shirk, but I do not feel that way. But it is a burden to know the truth, and it is a burden to try and convince others of something that you know from the root of your soul, straight up through the clouds and the stratosphere, across the heavens, across interstellar, intergalactic distances, and back, and through the dirt, and into the mantle and the core and back up out and springing out and in myriad different ways, tentaclized and curving back upon itself in some spiraling, eternal, fractal fabric that you can feel makes up every one of us. That solid of a truth, that how much I believe in the importance and the reality of what is going to happen. I feel like this should not be this difficult. I feel like I should be able to explain the facts and simply guide my family to salvation. But it's not that easy. And it's got birthing pains. It's really what it's got. Many great ideas are not recognized in their own time. And I can only hope that once the rebuilding starts, that there are enough of us that we have managed to convert enough people so that we don't feel the guilt and the pain of the responsibility of those who would not see the truth. And I don't think I carry this burden alone. I believe that once you have accepted the truth, you shoulder that burden with me. And it is incumbent upon you to do as I do and to spread the word. Now, for those who don't know, I started Project Eden's Gate years ago back in Rome, Georgia. I was living what I thought was a righteous and well-meaning life, and I felt that I was good to those around me. I felt that I was an honest man, and I did not visit any harm upon anyone. And I thought that that was enough. But I was naive, and I was blind. And worst of all, I think, in spite of my protestations to the contrary, there was a nugget deep inside me, deep inside where my feet touched the ground. And I could feel myself as a part of this world. I could sense when you touch someone who's nervous and you can feel them shaking. I could sense that there was something wrong. And I could sense it intensifying over time. I tried to ignore it. Thought, well, maybe it will go away. Maybe it's not my problem, you know. Maybe I just imagined it. Maybe I'm mentally ill. But none of these really gave a satisfactory answer, and the feeling was persistent. And like I said, intensifying, and I could not avoid it any longer. And one night, the voice came to me, and it was the voice of God. And I know that as sure as I know that I'm here talking to you right now. And God told me what I needed to do. And God told me that it would not be easy. To be fair, God did not tell me all the ways in which it would be difficult. And many of those I've had to find out on my own, the hard way, as they say. It has turned me into who I am today, and it took years for me, I think, to grow enough as a person to be able to lead Project Eden's Gate. When I was born, I was separated from my brothers. I grew up not knowing anything about them. And yet, after God spoke to me, I was able to find them and bring them back and have them under the same fold with me. There may be something more important than family outside spiritual, but I'd be hard-pressed to tell you what that is. And that is how we see all of our members, all family. When the first beings crawled out of the ocean, when the first gills became lungs, yes, I believe in evolution. I believe in evolution. I do not think that evolution and religion are mutually exclusive. It's very easy to have a black and white outlook on religious, spiritual, philosophical, scientific matters, and say either you believe all of this or you believe none of this. And lines that were drawn thousands of years ago are immutable. And that's just not the case. Time reveals new truths, and more importantly, time reveals lies. So yes, I believe that we evolved from lesser beings, and I believe that was part of God's plan. And I believe you watching this video right this moment is part of God's plan. I believe that you are looking for something. I believe that you feel like there's a hole somewhere. Maybe you walk this earth and you feel those same vibrations that I do. Maybe your soles are too thick. Try walking barefoot. Once in a while, try squeezing the dirt between your toes. Really feeling a part of the world on which you live. Always be searching. Always look for inconsistencies. Look for new truths. Or rather, look for holes in the truths that you already believe. Try constantly, always try to be questioning yourself. That's the only way that we will continue to evolve throughout our ontogeny, the same way that we have evolved in our phylogeny. Rather simple, man. I live by routine, but part of that routine is self-education, and I think that it is important for everyone, especially important for members of Project Eden's Gate. Now, there are plenty of cults, and there are plenty of fascist dictators and regimes that rely on suppression of knowledge. And the fact that we do not should, by itself, tell you a little bit about what we are and what we are not. And we are not a cult. And we are not a tyrannically led regime. We are a family. And my leadership, here's a misconception. There are people who believe that it is shameful to be a sheep. When I refer to a member of the flock as sheep, that is not a pejorative. There are people who pride themselves on following nothing, and by doing so, they imagine themselves to be leaders because they follow nothing. That's not leadership, that is pride. For every rebel, for everyone speaking truth to power, without a cause, these are people with no aim and no ambition and no vision. What's wrong with finding a person who complements your strengths? Admitting that leadership is not one of your strengths doesn't make you weak. It makes you self-aware. And if you are constantly searching for that truth in your own mind, then self-awareness is the first step towards godliness. I have weaknesses and I have strengths. Exactly like you. One of my strengths happens to be that I hold this vision and that I believe it to my core. But that doesn't make me any more special than you. I am a conduit and a vessel through which Eden can be realized. So when I call you one of my flock, when you join us, which I'm hoping if you've stayed with this video this long, you will. If I call you a sheep, you take no umbrage in that title. It's merely the natural order of things. There are paths in life that are chosen for us. And I don't believe in predestiny. I don't. I believe we can make our own paths. But somehow I simultaneously maintain the belief that there are, like grooves and records, there are predefined, worn grooves that are leading us in a particular direction. And if we don't like that direction, we can fight it and we can break out of it. If we're pleased with the direction, if that's something that we see and admire and want to pursue, we can do that too. That's how it was with me. I felt that the urge and the need to share my truth was both my predestined path and the path that I would have chosen anyway. And that's quite a wonderful coincidence, if you ask me, because if you get a job doing something you love, you're never going to work a day in your life. So, our methods of recruitment are myriad. Some are more effective than others. I'm the first to admit that. There are members of my immediate family who have preferences for different types of conversion. Sometimes a lost sheep needs to be put in a different frame of mind to get a different point of view on things that they believe, because they have seen them day in and day out, and they interpret them the same way day in and day out, to the point where they have convinced themselves utterly and completely that they know the truth about these things. So when somebody comes up to them and says, these things are not what you think they are very resistant, and that is understandable. It's unfortunate. It is the way of the world. But it is absolutely understandable. And in these cases, sometimes we find it useful to enable these wayward sheep to see the world anew. And in seeing what they had seen previously with fresh eyes, under the guidance of one of our heralds, they almost always come around and see the truth that we see, which is the one true truth. Now, there are those you can preach to, and those who can be persuaded with words. There are those you can chemically, you can grease the wheels with a little psychotropic grease and get them to see the world the way it is. And those are both methods that we've used. There have been reports of us as violent, and I absolutely do not believe or condone any such violence as a method of recruitment. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. You cannot threaten someone into believing you. The best you're going to get there is they're going to tell you what you want to hear. It's not going to change what's going on in their heads. Now, the best way is to allow them to come to their own conclusions and to aid them in whatever way you can. Like I said, sometimes that can be done through meditation, listening to lectures and praying and staying awake all night and sitting under the stars and waiting for the truth to come to you. But we have recently been looking into ways of branching out our methods of recruitment. And I was fortunate enough to be introduced to a fellow professor, lives up north, who's very skilled in an art that I thought might be of use for us here. Now I want you to stay with me. I want you to give me the benefit of the doubt as we go through this process, because it might seem a little bit strange at first. But it is a good way of turning the skeptic into a more measured and open-minded individual. Now, the technical name for this method is autonomous sensory meridian response. It's quite a mouthful. They call it ASMR for short. Now, I have used it myself on several occasions, and I have been instructed by some of its practitioners in its methods. And I thought, why not do a video with the intent of using ASMR to get, it's not a recruitment tool. See, this is where I find myself falling into this trap, and it's a trap of nomenclature and a trap of semantics. And it's ridiculous, is what it is, because nobody is trying to trick anybody into anything. The last thing I want to do is have somebody be part of my family who was tricked into being a part of my family. What I want to do is open your mind. And hopefully, when your mind is in a more open state, you will be more receptive to the truth. So, without further ado, I'd like to perform some of this mind-altering, relaxing, receptive, enhancing methodology that I've learned over the past few weeks. Does that sound good to you? Well, I haven't told you the best part. Well, a couple of really good parts. One, oh my goodness. One, it's free. Doesn't cost you a dime. Two, you don't have to do anything but sit there and listen. In fact, it works best if you do nothing at all. If you just sit back, relax, and try to keep your mind as blank as possible. It has been reported that this technique can induce sleep, and that is perfectly fine as well. We have in the past employed hypnotism, which has a similar sort of precept behind it. So whether you're awake or asleep, hopefully we will infiltrate those neurons and fire those synapses in ways that they have never been fired before, and making connections from one side of your cerebellum to the other, and discovering new beliefs and new truths together. I've been talking too much. Let's jump right in. I'm going to tell you a story. A story about a person. A person who never quite felt like they belonged. Never quite felt like they saw the world as it was meant to be seen. When they were very young, when they were children, they felt that they were different from other children. They felt that they weren't always understood. And that no matter what they did, they just didn't fit in. Or maybe they weren't ostracized, bullied, made fun of, but maybe they were. Maybe they escaped by imagining fantastic worlds and fantastic things. Perhaps they imagined they were a pirate. Perhaps they imagined they lived in a world of rainbows where houses were made out of gingerbread. Perhaps they imagined they were a brave and wise sorceress living in a time where dragons were thought of as real and magic was more important than science. It was hard for them growing up. Growing up is hard enough under the most ideal circumstances. Hell, life is hard. When you're going through that phase in your life where you don't have the experience to discern good from evil, right from wrong, immediate gratification from long-term, deeper, and more meaningful satisfaction, personal growth. It is a hard time, and it is a hard life. So you take your solace where you can, and you escape where you can. And as you get older, perhaps you're sold on the idea that what will finally make you happy in life is money. And so, as you get older, that's what you chase. However, and by whatever means you can, you're looking for the almighty dollar. The things that it can get you. The worlds that it opens up. The doors previously locked. Now, as if by magic, opened by pieces of paper. Now, you might be successful. You might hoard so much of this paper that you don't even know what to do with it. You couldn't get rid of it if you tried. It would have to be your occupation to get rid of all the money you have. But you don't need anywhere near that much to start to realize that the questions you had before you started on your quest, they're still there. Maybe they're worse because the very thing that you thought would make you happy, now you've got it, but you're still not happy. Now that is what we call a crisis of conscience. And what can you do in that situation? If the thing you chased for so long suddenly becomes useless to you, where do you turn? What becomes your next obsession? Maybe you try to use all of that money that you've collected over all those years. Maybe you try to use it to buy things. Hope those things will make you happy. But then you become like a snake. Snake eating its own tail. In this pursuit of more and more and more. The dark irony of it is, it has no end. There's no way to win. It's a distraction. It's an intentional distraction that is meant to keep you from seeing and realizing the real truth. Just keep chasing that money and buying more things. Keep wondering why you're just as upset as you were when you started. Either because you haven't been successful in getting the money you were chasing, or just as bad, if not worse, you have been successful, but you are still not content. Money cannot buy happiness. Money cannot change universal truths. It's a distraction. So where do you go next? What do you do? Well, perhaps, you start to look for other answers. Perhaps you begin a journey, one of knowledge, searching, through books, tomes, codices, trying to find something that resonates. And here, maybe, you might find more success than you did in your pursuit of money. There is some satisfaction from the knowledge that can be found in books. Of course, a good book has plenty of truth in it. Although it is my belief that the vast majority of those truths are represented in almost any other book. Maybe not all in one book, but I do believe that the teachings of the Bible come through in almost any work of fiction, because we're all drawn from the human experience, and that's a spiritual experience, like the fire and the flame. A dancer that casts no shadow. And at each of these stages, maybe you start to wonder, why you thought the previous stage was the answer, when it's so clear that the route you're in pursuit of now is so much more valid. And we do not stagnate. We search. That is what we are. So it makes sense that as one goes through life, they try on different hats, only to discard them when they don't hold up to the closest of scrutinies. So perhaps, your search for knowledge lasts longer than your pursuit of material wealth. Your pursuit of knowledge, perhaps, should last your entire life. And yet, maybe even as you go through life, you realize that no matter what you discover, you're not going to be content with it as an end point. After all, we only have one end point. It's the same for everybody. So maybe you start thinking about what death means to you. Maybe you start thinking about why it matters. If you should care. If you should spend time trying to decipher the mysteries behind a natural event that every human being who has ever lived has tried to varying degrees to decipher. The odds of you being the one who finally stumbles upon the answer staggeringly low, to be candid. Again, no varnish. And yet, it's difficult not to think about it. It's difficult not to wonder, is that all? What's next? Where will I go? What will happen to me? Does anybody know the answer? And if so, who? And where? Now, if you've gone through your life and you've gone through your period of searching for yourself, your period of pursuing material wealth, pursuing knowledge, pursuing a meaning to your very existence. Maybe you've done that for 20 years, maybe you've done it for 80 years. It does not matter. It does not matter how old you are. It does not matter how long you've been searching. You have to forgive me. When one is in possession of a truth as great as the one that I hold, it is hard to contain the joy. Now, there might still be some level of resistance inside you from outside you, your friends, from your family. Expect skepticism, and some level of skepticism is good. But we have to be careful, because once you see the truth, you cannot let anybody poison the well. You have finally uncovered this spring of the purest blue. It's bliss. Once you do that, don't let anybody taint it. And don't let anybody stand in your way. The ends justify the means. And there's no case that I can think of where that is more directly applicable than in your personal revelation about your new home at Eden's Gate. I feel your joy. I feel the breakthrough. I don't know how that's possible. I often experience these overwhelming feelings of all emotions simultaneously, and I get them from different sources, different places for different reasons. But right now, what I feel is that I've gotten through to you. And if that's true, then you must come join us at Eden's Gate. We live in hope. Please, come live in hope with us. Let us be your new family. Let me be your father. Trust in me. And we will cross the threshold together. And you will see at last that all of your suffering and all of your pursuits that seem to come up in cul-de-sacs or dead ends or outright untruths, those were not in vain. This was all leading up to now. Your life has been leading up to now. So come to me, and don't let anybody sway you from your path. I'll be waiting. Thank you. Is that? I don't know. Did I? Well, there'll be some kind of thing at the bottom, maybe. A number. We'll put a number somewhere. Not by name, no, but names aren't important. Look, the levels were okay, everything that was okay. All right, that's really all I care about. Do you think it was all right? Yeah. Well, who gives a hell what you think, really?